Hi, this is Kurt Barone, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
In Nashville, I think this has to be a prelude to we'll get back to you, right? Because we don't have all of the information on this. I would like to see the actual policy and the actual decision, but here what happens in Nashville is that there are policies designed to curb, presumably the intent was to legally curb speech that's not protected by the First Amendment or otherwise. And a judge here blocked enforcement of two policies that were intended to limit, I'm assuming, non-protected speech, but went too far and then limited protected speech. I would like to see the actual amount of it, or the actual language, the actual language in it. But the facts of this person are interesting.
Let's go through them. Let's kind of lay out the facts.
Yeah, I'm going to read what you wrote because you did a great job. So, so the firefighter files suit in April. He claims the suspension is unconstitutional. He's a comedian, right? So he's got a whole different job here. And as a comedian, he criticized a city council decision, his employer, but not as a comedian, as a firefighter. All right. So he criticizes a decision on license plate readers by posting on Twitter. He says, I hate feeding into the illusion that America's government and existence is legitimate. So I'm no fan of voting, but the majority of Nashville City Council is white supremacists. I know it's boring, but millennials have to start caring about local elections. Now, if that isn't protected speech having nothing to do with employment other than you happen to be employed by the people you're criticizing, I don't know what is. Nonetheless, the judge concluded that two of the four policies that were challenged were unconstitutional restrictions of employee free speech. Forget about the policies for a second, just the whole action of disciplining this guy for making comments about his employer in a totally different capacity and not even speaking about the fire department, right? They're just general comments that have nothing to do with the fire department. It'd be one thing if he said the license plates on the fire truck, maybe, but that's not what he said. In any event, so I really would like to see what the specific language was that was deemed to be overbroad and went after protected speech, would have inhibited protected speech. Factually, I don't know whether you agree or not, but factually, the whole background, I don't care what the policy says, what he said is protected speech, no matter what the policy tries to curb out of work activity for.
Yeah, I would just start out by saying I even though I disagree totally with his comments, they it's like nails on the chalkboard when I hear that. But
let's right
point being that we've got to analyze it through the Pickering balancing test, and is it a matter of public concern? Absolutely. Did he post it as a private citizen? Well, he posted it in his stage name. Okay, so there's one, aspect of it. You've got to look at his overall social media presence, but it seems to me that he did it as a private citizen. Then we get into the Pickering balancing test, and does his right to say that outweigh the city's right to shut him up? And that's why I'm not a big fan of that balancing test. But one of the key points of that is we got to look at whether or not a posting could cause actual harm and disruption to the mission and function of the fire department. And I think reasonable minds can differ on whether or not it could cause actual harm. And so I think that's where you're at. But the court didn't even get to that issue. They're saying, did the non-defamation policy that you can't defame someone violate the First Amendment as a prior restraint? And the court said, yeah, it's a prior restraint. How about you can't post anything that's going to be derogatory? That's a prior restraint. So that still leaves two of the possible charges that he's facing still open. And so it'll be interesting to see. And I think the fact that the judge didn't throw out those other two as an indication that maybe there's, maybe there's some validity to his violating, what's left of the social media policy.
What bothers me, though, just on these kind of cursory facts, is this could happen to you and I just in this scenario on our blog, right? If we comment on something that one of our, and you and I are try to be careful about commenting too close to home, right? But if we did, and somebody said, oh my God, Brad commented about the village of Manlius and how he doesn't like their trash collection, but he's a firefighter there. We're going to go after him because on a public stage, he criticized his employer having nothing to do with the fire department.
Right.
If I called, and there are lines, right? So here he's saying, well, you're all racist. You're white supremacists. Okay, well, if you think they are, they are. And, that's an opinion. An opinion would never constitute defamation. So the speech, I think based on, it's very hard to win defamation suits. So for the village to say, or the city to say, well, you defamed us, calling them racist isn't necessarily defamation, it's opinion, right? But let's go back, let's change the scenario. Now we say, you know what? My employer is incompetent at managing the budget and keeps raising taxes and is taxing and spending like all Democrats do, blah, blah, blah. I don't mean to make this Democrat Republican, but let's assume it got closer to home, right? Because I don't want viewers to say, well, you can criticize your employer anytime you want. No. There's probably a line where you say, okay, this starts becoming employee speech, not citizen speech, and where it's not a matter of public concern, it's more internal grievance, right? So our municipality is horrible at managing the budget, taxing and spending. They don't care about you. What I'm really talking about is I'm pissed at something about work. So, it's all this kind of scale and when does it tip? So I think this is a bad example of, because come on, you're a comedian under a stage name and it has, calling them racist or whatever has nothing to do with your job.
Yeah. We'll let that one go for the, for the forum to make that prediction. But bottom line is this firefighter ended up getting terminated shortly thereafter because he posted the police chief's his personal phone, but it was the city phone, but it was not but basically the cell phone number of the police chief, posted it online, social media wise. And
did he have that number only because he's a firefighter, or
I don't think so, but I don't know. But the point being that he ended up being terminated over that. And so the reason I say that is it looks like that from the city's perspective, they may have perceived him as pushing the envelope, and they felt that they needed to remove him from the payroll, and that there may be other things in the background that led them to do this beyond just this one comment. That's that would be from a couple of thousand miles away. That would be my assumption. There's something else going on here.
Always is.
And they usually is, and that they felt that that they needed to take a stand on this. So whether or not they picked the right thing to take the stand on
wouldn't be my advice, right?
That's a different story. But
well, there we are.
So yeah.